Hello, and welcome back to my video. Everything but drama here, and I'd want to say I want to keep this family in my prayers for everything that's happened. And another thing I'd like to say is Chatham Hospital should be investigated, and what I mean by this is you just need to watch this video and it'll explain to you the situation, not my situation, but my situation is going to be explained in this video as well as my grandfather's situation, who's no longer here with us anymore. So, to get this started, I'd like to say that Chatham Hospital is very corrupt. They pretty much use people as guinea pigs and experiment on them with different drugs. There was times I was on 4,000 to 5,000 milligrams of pills in a day, and when I got released from that hospital and went to Cambridge, it was a completely different story. They were like, why are you on so much? You shouldn't be on this. It's way too much of a dosage, etc. There was times I was taking 13 pills plus a day, and that's just not right in my eyes, especially for my condition. Like I said, they just experiment, and it's just not right. I don't think they actually know what they're doing there, and for the fact that so many people have lost loved ones in this hospital, probably because of them not knowing what they're doing, just it's insane to say the least, and it's just not right. And getting back to my story here, like I said, 13 pills plus a day. That's not, how do I put this? That's way too much. And it wasn't a fun time for me to be at that hospital. And I was there for 3 months, and it was brutal, to say the least. There's times I ripped out a sink in the isolation room because they gave me a drug that didn't agree with my body, and I absolutely ripped out the sink with my bare hands. There's times that they injected my feet and pretty much put me in isolation, and it was just not fun. Woke up and I was pretty much in an isolation room for 48 hours, I believe, or 72 hours, and barely given any food, water, etc. And if you were to actually pull up my medical record, you'd see all the different drugs that they experimented on me with. And now that I'm finally better, and much better, I don't take any pills at all in a day. Don't take no pills at all. I just take an injection once every 3 weeks. Alright, from this point forward, I'm going to move the video on to my grandfather. He got taken off his heart meds, and after that happened, he passed away. Even the doctors in London said that he shouldn't have been taken off those meds, and Chatham just took him off of them, and after that he passed away. But moving on from this, I feel like Chatham Hospital should be investigated. I feel like there's more to everybody's stories than what we actually know. There's so much corruption, and it just needs to stop. It's not right. And as the lady says in this video, we're pretty much a number and a statistic, and that's not what it should be. We're human beings at the end of the day. We should all be treated equally. We should all be treated right. We should all be treated with actual help to actually help us out. And I'll let this video explain to you somebody else's story from the Chatham Hospital. I'm not asking you to like and subscribe for this channel, for this video I mean, but all likes would be appreciated. That way it bumps up the algorithm and this video trends. What this means is, if you could simply like the video, it would mean a lot, just because it helps the algorithm and more people can find the video. Alright, I'll check you guys in the next one. EBD signing off.
Just on the outskirts of Chatham, Ontario, Claire Wiersma raised his 4 children with his wife Eveline. Claire served his community over the years, first as a police officer, then as a deputy chief for the Chatham-Kent Police. His former colleagues described him as a good and considerate, thoughtful man with integrity. After retirement, Claire spent much of his spare time volunteering for non-profit programs in the community and working with his son-in-law building homes. With only a few aches and pains from arthritis, the spry 67-year-old lived a happy and healthy life. On December 23, 2021, after testing positive for COVID-19 a few days earlier, Claire would leave his home and family in an ambulance, never to return. What transpired over the next 7 days after he was admitted to the Chatham Hospital can only be described as shocking. The Canadian Independent traveled to Chatham to hear from Claire's wife Eveline about that fateful week.
Medics came to the door. There were 2 of them. One went directly to Claire to check on his vitals. The other posed a bunch of questions to me, and the first thing he asked me was, "Are you vaccinated?" And I should have just said, "None of you," that, irrelevant, but I was upset, in shock. And I said, "No, I'm not." And then he pointed to Claire and said, "Is he?" And I said, "No." And then he pointed at Jolene, our daughter, and said, "Are you?" And she said, "No." And then he muttered something under his breath, rolled his eyes, and yeah, I think everything went downhill from there. They didn't want to bring a stretcher into our home. It was drizzly day, it was cold, windy, and so they put the stretcher in front of the house on the walkway. He was dressed in a shirt, underwear, and socks, and they put him on a stretcher in front of the house. No blankets, nothing covering him, and that hit me really hard. They saw signs of pneumonia, and because he was somewhat confused, and so that's what they did. They admitted him, kept him there. The only time we communicated with them is when we called. They never called us, ever.
Okay. According to hospital records, sepsis, a serious condition treated with antibiotics, was initially suspected, but dismissed by the overseeing doctor. Tragically, it would be revealed on Claire's death certificate that he died from COVID pneumonia with septic shock. Instead of antibiotics, Claire was injected with a multitude of drugs, including fentanyl and an immunosuppressive agent called tocilizumab, brand name Actemra. This drug is authorized by Health Canada to treat hospitalized COVID-19 patients. Side effects can include serious or fatal infections, liver problems, and is labeled with an important safety warning. Eveline describes Claire's condition the day before he was injected with this drug.
We spoke with him. It was Christmas Day, so it was right before they intubated him. He prayed with us. He was as with it as you and I talking here right now. he was puzzled. Like he said to us, they're not telling me anything. They are not giving me a prognosis. I know nothing. And we said, same here.
Claire and his family were never consulted or informed about the cocktail of drugs prescribed by multiple doctors at the Chatham Hospital, nor were they told about the possible deadly side effects.
So a lot of the things that I know now, I didn't know at the time. I didn't know that he had gone septic. I didn't know that he had developed acidosis. That's all in the records. I didn't know how much fentanyl they gave him until I went through the records. And I'm not a medical person.
No.
But yeah.
No, that's shocking, actually.
Mm-hmm.
How much fentanyl were they giving it to him every day, or just after he was intubated?
Every day, sometimes every hour. And from what people who looked at his records, the nurse that first looked at his records said they were giving him high doses, much more than she thought he would need. Everybody that I've talked to, doctors, they've said to me, had he been treated from the minute he was arrived at the hospital with antibiotics, when they saw sepsis, they should have right away given him high dosage antibiotics, found out there's different forms of sepsis, different antibiotics treat it better. They should have found that out, treated it. They think he would still be alive today. And that's the thing that haunts me to this day. I look outside and I think, because he'd walk up from the river. He loved being outside. And I see him walking towards the house. And I think I know that God's sovereign, but I have this strong feeling had they treated him, I would still see him out there. And that's the thing that makes this whole process so horrible. Thinking that this did not need to happen, ever.
Claire Wiersma's health declined dramatically after receiving the drug Actemra. He was intubated, sedated, and paralyzed with drugs, unable to communicate with his family. On December 30th, 2021, the overseeing doctor prescribed 2 antibiotics, metronidazole and ceftriaxone. This was the only time Claire would receive antibiotics to treat the infection. Tragically, 3 hours later, Claire passed away. Aibileen revisits this heartbreaking day.
No one else was allowed to be in the hospital even. They all had to be outside. So Jolene and I were allowed out to go to ICU. And this is the first time I've seen Claire since the 23rd. And he's hooked up to all these machines, and knowing that he's dying, I don't do well in hospitals in situations like that. I tend to get dizzy, almost faint, and that's exactly what happened. I don't know if it was a nurse or a doctor walked into the room that I was in and said to Callan, "You can take your mom out now." We're going, oh, this is strange. So they put me in a wheelchair, and Callan took me up in the elevator, and I had a direct view into Claire's room. And when the elevator doors opened, I knew that he was gone. And I said to the nurses, "He's gone, isn't he?" And they said, "Yeah, about 10 minutes ago." And so I was made to double mask, and they let me in this room. He was gone. There's just four kids and they wouldn't allow us to be in the room together. Jolene realized that I had had nothing to eat or drink, and she was afraid I was going to faint again, so she went to the nurses and said, "Can Mom have a glass of water?" And they said, "No, not while she's in that room." And then, like, their desk is right outside of Claire's room, and they're laughing and talking while it was cruel. I know that they see death all the time, but there was a lack of respect, of honor, of compassion that I have never, ever experienced before. And I understand they're under a lot of stress.
It's been 2 years since Claire's tragic death. Avelyn's hope is that Claire's story and voice will be heard. Before we ended the interview, I asked Avelyn if she would like to say a few words, particularly to the doctors and staff at the Chatham Kent Health Alliance Hospital.
My first and foremost would be to remind them they're dealing with people with feelings and emotions. Also people who think, and that they need to clearly be in communication, not leave people in the dark, that they need to show compassion and care, that they should think outside of their protocols, and that they should do everything they know how to fight for someone's life, that that person isn't just a number, another face, but that person is dearly loved by their family, and that they should do everything they know how to try to save that person's life.